Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Y'all, y'all know how I feel about this dude that's my guest today, uh, H. Scott Gordon, my brother, my partner, the person I run through with visions and missions, goals, and purpose, my counterpart in the counseling arena. Today he's coming before us because I really want him to spit wisdom on fatherhood and being a man and how we can build our young men up so that they can walk with a sense of pride, a sense of understanding and self-respect, and being their absolute best self. So, ladies, y'all had y'all day for Mother's Day, but this is about the fellas today. So, without further ado, bro, welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with me.
Well, sis, the introduction is way too much, but I accept it. Um, Very rare do you have soulmates that are not romantic.
Right.
And I think we knew from the day we met each other. And you said, "Who was this little short, aggressive little man?" And I'm like, "Well, who this little light-eyed lady coming in here?" But the chemistry, the magnetism, the camaraderie, all of those words were evident from the beginning. And we both had similar visions. And then that's what I think the
Mhm.
creator does is that he puts people together who are needed to be together if we are obedient and
Mhm.
we listen. And he put two people who knew what our communities needed, even though we grew up differently. We still had
Mhm.
that same vision, that same purpose, that same mind. So when you stated in your introduction about how you throw things, we throw things off of each other because
Mhm.
we are so in tune and attuned to each other and this work that we do. And we arrogantly, as masters level clinicians, didn't even have a degree yet, didn't even have, excuse me, licensure,
Mhm.
but we
Mhm.
had vision, and
Mhm.
we spoke that vision into existence some 10 years ago.
I was
10
going to
years
say you cutting us short.
10 years ago that we were going to change the face of therapy in the African American community. And
Mhm.
I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing, the books and the businesses and just the outreach that you have. Um, and I'm so proud just to call you my sister. And I likewise when I need anything, I know who to call. And there's not going to be a well, why or what you need. When you need it,
That's it.
where do I need to be? And that's
Mhm.
real fellowship. That's real brother and sisterhood. That's real camaraderie. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And you got me over here blushing, but you're right. You said something that is very impactful. Being soulmates and as brother and sister, and there's no intimacy and all that kind of stuff that can clog up any lanes because it brings out a different level of relationship. But God knew to cross our paths, I believe. I believe that he set things into motion because we're yin and yang and we pull on each other's energy and the strength and I love everything that you do in the community to help black men understand the importance of creating safe space for emotional repair. So today I really want us to focus on encouraging black men to be themselves because one thing I recognized is in our community, black men often have to find their manhood ways out of the mud in a sense because dad's not there or maybe not be the best example or whatever. Can you start out with some words of inspiration to the guys that feel like I just never had an example of what a man or even what a father was?
It's ironic, and that's such a great question. It's ironic because I've been pondering my life.
Mm,
I just turned 60 last year, and 60 was such a revelation and eye-opening experience for me.
mhm,
And one of the things that I really never noticed is that I never had like a big homie. I've
mhm,
never had that big dude that I trusted, that I talked to. My grandfather was there, but again, he was an older gentleman in a
mhm.
time where, emotional availability was non-existent. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought my name was Boy most of the, hey, boy, go do that. But he loved me the way he did. I wasn't
Mhm,
raised with my dad. He was in my life, and we did the best that we could. So,
mhm,
but I've learned that you can get, even if there's not a father in there, there are men who coach, there are men who teach,
mhm,
there are men who mentor, there are
mhm,
black men out there for us. I think in my practice, which is over 70-75% black males
mhm,
in my practice, is a lot of it is because I get a lot of single moms. Or they don't even have to
mhm,
be single moms. I get a
mhm.
lot of mothers who need that positive, consistent black man in their sons' lives. So,
Mhm.
brothers, if you have your children, and of course that's the number one, you know, your number one focus. But if you have a little other room, reach out to some other these
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, because it has to be village based. And young brothers, seek
Mhm,
seek that. You don't have to isolate yourself. And a
mhm,
lot of times, our young brothers, they come to me broken, and they feel that it's their father's fault, or it's their fault that their father's
mhm.
alive. And then a lot of single mothers catch hell because of that, because the child is upset. Think about it, because there's a rejection right there. They
Right.
don't know why they know I need this man in my life,
Mhm,
and for some reason he's not in my life. I don't know completely why, because it's not been shared with me.
mhm.
Then I look to my mom and say, well, it obviously has to be your fault. You're it, because no boy wants to feel like I'm inferior, that he
Yeah.
really doesn't want to be in my life. He really
Mhm,
doesn't want to mess with me.
mhm,
So there's
mhm.
a lot of moving parts to that situation.
Oh yeah, yeah. I tell single moms, I was a single mother. I tell single mothers to gird up their strength because their babies out lashes at them. It really isn't at them, it's at the parent that's not there. They come at that mother, or even in the single parent father situation, they come at the parent that stayed because you're the stability, and they need to know what they need, that energy to go somewhere. It's unfortunate that it has to go towards a parent that stayed, but I'm so glad that you mentioned the importance of it taking a village to get to our young boys. Everybody's talking about the YNs and all that kind of stuff. It's up to our community to take care of our community. When you think about how, even with your boys and your grandson and going out into the community to impact life, what are some things that you all share within the community, to help other young people understand? It's because I see Scotty's stuff all the time on Instagram, so I know the messages that he's putting out there. But what are some things that you literally are telling men? Yo, man, it's time to wake up, and you need to begin to do this. What are some of those messages?
Great question. And talk about the YNs a lot. A lot of them come to me because they're somebody says, hey, it's time for you to get therapy. And they asked me, they was like, Mr. Scott, then why do I need therapy? And I said, you need therapy for emotional regulation, stability, and stability, so you don't crash out. Because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what this crash out culture is. Why do they feel this, that word of crashing out? Like, I don't know if that's came from the Grand Theft Auto games that they play or whatever, but just
Mm-hmm.
losing emotional control. And
Yeah.
that's just what I tell young brothers. I said therapy is going to be your antidote to crash out. Because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
intelligent and emotionally stable, you're going to crash out, bro. So that's one of the things that I tell them, that they have to be emotionally intelligent. And one of the things I have to compare is, what is emotional intelligence, right?
Come on, break it.
And you look at it, and we want to believe that women are emotionally intelligent because they are very extremely emotional, you know, and they look at men not to be emotionally intelligent because, or men think they're emotionally intelligent when they are mostly suppressive, right? So I think there's
Mm-hmm.
two sides to a pendulum, where
Mm-hmm.
not all women, but most women are not emotionally intelligent because they're too emotional, and their emotionals guide them in everything they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an influx, and they're not controlled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas to the other end of the spectrum, men are they use emotional suppression. I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
going to feel anything. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
feel anything. So if I don't feel anything, then I don't have to react.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's going to come out.
It's going to. Mm-hmm.
What emotional intelligence is, Marcia, is the ability to feel your emotions, process them, and control them,
Yes.
right? So you're not
Mm-hmm.
lashing out, you're not building up, because emotions, unresolved emotion, are like powder kegs that they keep building up and building up until
Mm-hmm.
you explode. And
Mm-hmm.
then because of toxic masculinity, what do men do when everything hits the front? The only emotion that they can show that's acceptable in society is anger,
Anger.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anger is never the reason why you're angry. There's always an emotion below that, and it's hurt, and it's jealousy, and it's loneliness, and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things that are taboo for
Mm-hmm.
us to talk about. So one of the first things that I give my men when they come to therapy is a permission to feel.
Oof.
Permission to feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It doesn't make you less than a man because you're sad. It doesn't
Right.
make you less than a man because you're scared. And then I even have to go even deeper into fear, because I ain't scared of nothing, man. I'm a man. I'm
The bravado.
that
Mm-hmm.
bravado. And I have to understand. I tell them the fear is not even an emotion. It's
At
an
all.
instinct. It is hardwired into us through our amygdala. So if you feel that you don't fear anything,
Mm-hmm.
then you are suppressing one of your instinct that is there to survive but also
Mm-hmm.
thrive, because
Mm-hmm.
fear is a alert when we're not comfortable in a situation, and it
Mm-hmm.
could be a situation, if it's not dangerous, that we can grow and build. Because I
Mm-hmm.
tell these people, these clients and these young men, that you cannot grow in comfort. You have to be uncomfortable to grow, and that's going to make you feel a way. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
understand, control, and, as they say, dance with fear,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
you'll even show opportunities to grow. I'm scared
Yeah.
about a lot of things. I'm scared before I take on this podcast, and I know I'm in the safe space because I'm with my sister. But it's an uncomfortable. There's
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty, right? There's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uncertainty in this. Am I going to mess up? I'm going to say I have attention. All of those things are triggers to fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
accepting that, I explain that the first step to courage is to accept fear. When you
Come
accept
on.
fear,
Yeah.
then you are courageous. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that the fear is not there, but you're able to control it. You're
Mm-hmm.
able to master it. And we
And it
don't.
doesn't minimize you to experience fear. It doesn't minimize who you are. Um, I think that's the messaging, because so many people talk about reducing masculinity, right? Fear, as you said, is a part of your survival and instinct acceptance. Anger is on across the bridge as some unprocessed stuff that comes up in that bravado. And so as you're talking to these young people and even older men, because there are still some older men who will operate out of emotional dysfunction. What are some things you help them to, one, first admit? about the emotional dysfunction so that you can help them recognize, oh, I don't have to act like that anymore.
Well, one of the things that the first thing I do, I have a process called LPI.
Okay.
Um, and I'm actually coming out with a workbook to take all the activities that I have put together over my 5 years in private practice
Mm-hmm.
and come up with a LPI theory. And
Okay.
LPI stands for love, purpose, and intelligence.
Right.
So I know a lot of therapists and they ask their clients, well, what are your goals or what are the things that you want to accomplish in therapy?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
I tell my clients is that I will provide three things for you: love, purpose, and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Love, self love. You cannot move, cannot grow, you cannot want to get better if you don't love yourself, period.
Right.
Period, period, period. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding who you are. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things you said was uh earlier, you said they can't be themselves. Well, if
Mm-hmm.
they don't know who they are, then they can't be who they don't know they are.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
understanding who you are as a man, what do you love about yourself? What don't you love about yourself? Those things, figuring out your values, because I feel that you become who your values are, or you are what your values are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we spoken about that in our prior session. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding that. So loving yourself. The second is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Almost that Victor Franco logotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding why we are here and what is our job, what is our mission, what is our purpose. We talked about that. We found our purpose is this work right here.
That
So
part.
letting them understand what their purpose is in life so that they can fulfill that and have a goal and a destination where they're going in life and not just waking up. And the third I is intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence, being able to feel all your emotions, be complete in all your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to cry, cry. It's okay. If you need to yell, yell, but control it in a
Mm-hmm.
safe space and a safe environment, pun
Mm-hmm.
intended.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna throw out some information about a safe space at the end because I want people to really understand how to get connected with you. I was providing a preceptorship opportunity for some nurses who are nursing school students who are going through their mental health part of nursing school. And I asked them about emotional dysregulation and understanding that. And the one gentleman, because there was always only one, maybe two nurses, male nurses, nursing students there. And his response was very simple. So many times, men aren't given the permission to express emotions. And I said, and you're absolutely right, because women are encouraged to nurture, have emotions in the field. Boys are encouraged to be quiet. You know, don't show emotion. Don't cry if they fall. Well, if it hurts, you don't cry. That kind of thing. How do you help men to understand that what you are feeling is part of the human process, and there's nothing wrong with it?
Well, and I'll use a personal story. Um, as you know, I am the proud grandfather of the most amazing 3-year-old and that I've ever met in my life. And I've had to grow even as a because I have the pleasure of also help raising him. So I
Mm-hmm.
have my grandson every other week. So
Mm-hmm.
me, my wife, and my daughters, we have a village over here. And what's funny is that the other day he was upset and he came to me and his head was down and he's like, my feelings are hurt. My
Oh, I
feelings are
love
hurt.
it.
And he's 3 years old, but he can process his feelings because what I had to do was the total opposite of what I did with his father and his uncle. Is that I
Mm-hmm.
had to give him permission at a young, it's okay. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's regulate this. We're not going to cry over everything. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So giving permission. What I had to do with my sons, really, when I became awakened to this mental health journey and understanding all the toxicity that I put into them. Don't you cry. You better not cry. You better man up. You better do all of that. I had to go back and apologize to my sons
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
say, yo, daddy was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't allow you, I didn't give you the space to feel, right? So now we got to do better in raising little Malik and making him a comprehensive man. And one of the,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I love that comprehensive man.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I got that from the good brother out of Detroit, Jason Wilson. And he
Okay.
came out. He uh he penned the first. Well, the second book was Battle Cry, and then the book that I'm actually reading now was the Man, the Moment, the Man, and it's really becoming getting out of this masculine man, this macho, always got to be tough and things of that nature, but being comprehensive, because
Mm-hmm.
understanding there's, of course, I want men to be men. There's nothing wrong with masculinity.
Right.
Masculinity is a
Right.
beautiful thing that you
Mm-hmm.
protect, that you provide, but you also have to have that feminine to counteract it, or because too much of anything
It's too much.
becomes excess, and then you become, so if the only thing that you are is hard and you have no softness about you, you have no nurturing about you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that when I talk about divine masculine, divine feminine, I know we're not gonna get into that conversation today because we know we all, because I had to cut y'all, I had to cuss my sis out and she cussed me back, but I ain't talked to her for 2 weeks because I thought she called me a punk. That's all I know. That's all I know. I'm sorry. That's all. She
Woo.
said you have more feminine energy than your wives. I'm like, wait, is you calling me? And what she was telling me became true because when I started looking at masculine and feminine energy and the characteristics, and this is one of
Mm-hmm.
the exercises I do with my clients, is to say, are you more masculine? Are you where are or is there a balance? Because you should have a balance of
Yes.
masculinity to feminine. That's where
Mm-hmm.
yin and yang come into play. It's a perfect
Mm-hmm.
balance. So being able to, one of the greatest things that I am so proud of my son Malik is his nurturing with his son,
Love
my
that.
grandson Malik.
Mm-hmm.
Malik, Malik, my son's the street nigga. That's just
Mm-hmm.
he took that from me. That's what
Yeah.
he is. But now that he sees that and he's embracing it as a father, as a full-time dad, and doing it, he's doing an absolute job because he's being gentle, he's being tender. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, why aren't we tender and gentle with our young man? Out of fear. We parent out of fear. The fear that
Mm-hmm.
if you grow up in a certain condition, like I grew up in the projects in the Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
that if you show any weakness, any vulnerability, any feminine energy, you will become prey to the
Mm-hmm.
predators out there in the street. So you taught, you better not cry, you better not you can't go to another brother, yo, man, no, I'm feeling a little lonely right now. They're like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
chill with that. What you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I believe that black women outlive black men, because they don't hold it. They can go to their sister girls and say, girl, I am stressed, I am lonely, I am
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, and it's not judged. But when men do it, oh, that nigga soft, there's something wrong with him,
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with him. Well, there's nothing. He's just like you said, he's human.
Yeah,
But sometimes
exactly.
that has been beaten out of us by not just our fathers, our mothers as well.
Absolutely. And mothers can be brutal to raising their boys because of that idea your daddy left, so you need to be the man in the house. I hate
That
that pressure being put on a young child. No, he's not the man of the house. He should not have to worry if mama gonna be able to pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. That's not his job. That's not his role. When I was raising my son, people would get on me because I would often say to them, don't tell my child he can't cry. If he fell down and he scarred himself or something hurt him, you don't get to tell him that he can't cry. That does not reduce his male existence or his masculinity. And I say that with my grandsons now. No, you got a right to feel. Because my little dude, he be over here sound bowling with me and and meditating the whole 9 yards. And I love it because it's a well-rounded perspective. And I'm so glad that you got a new lease because grandparenting really gives us a new lease on even dealing with our adult children, helping to form our young ones and to be
Mhm.
the men that we want them to be, the children that we want them to grow up to be good humans. And so I love watching you as a granddad because the joy just kind of oozes out of you anytime you talk about little Malik. I love it because you've honed in on the reparativeness of being a man, being able to take on accountability to say, son, I messed up with y'all. I didn't know how to give the balance of the nurturing side as well as the bravado. I didn't know that for myself because I didn't know me. How important of that is that message for men to begin, especially coming into Father's Day? Which I think men get a bad rap on Father's Day. They don't get the acknowledgement for being there and even a lot of the tumultuousness that comes along with having to co-parent. But how can we send a message to men this Father's Day that one, it's okay to feel, two, it's okay to take on the accountability of change for yourself? How do we spread that message?
Well, the first message that I want to give the brothers out there is show up.
Mm.
Show up.
Mm-hmm.
Be present.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you don't have anything to give, but I want to take a side note. I want to go to the sisters.
Uh-huh.
Sisters, allow these fathers to be in their sons' lives.
Come on now.
Allow
Even the
this
girls. Mm-hmm.
granddaughters, their children's life. They need both of them,
Mm-hmm.
both parents. And just because he might not have the financial ability at that time, but
Mm-hmm.
he wants to spend time. He wants to be present. He wants to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Being being a father has nothing to do with being a boyfriend or a husband.
Right.
And the same thing for men. Being a father has nothing to do with being a husband or significant other. And oftentimes when we have these rifts, well, if I can't be with you, then I am not going to either allow you to be with your children, or I don't want to be with my children. I go start another family and another
Mm-hmm.
family and another family. So
Yep.
first and foremost, protect and provide what you procreate, what you
Mm-hmm.
bring into this world. Be responsible for. Take
Mm-hmm.
accountability. In one of your great um, women's retreat, the last one I did, I spoke on the difference between being a victim and being a victor, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, man, take accountability. Yo, I wasn't the father that I need to be. Speak that. Be vulnerable, be open,
Yep.
especially if you have a young 17, 18-year-old who's trying to figure out and thinking that I got to be perfect or I can't make mistakes, and he's looking at you for guidance. Be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable with them and say, yo, son, yeah, I wasn't the best, man. But I always say, when I know better, I do better.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is when you know better, you can do better.
Can you talk to the guys who there was no dad, and in some instance, there was no mom because of the her inability to emotionally regulate, and now he's in a role as a dad and a husband. Can you give them some words of encouragement to help them grab hold to something that they can encourage themselves when it seems like they're not enough?
Well, you know, forgive yourself. Oftentimes, unforgiveness, because we think that we did something wrong that our mothers and our fathers may not have been in our lives. So the first thing
Mm-hmm.
is you have to forgive yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Forgive yourself for whatever the past, because the past is over. You cannot relive that. But also seek out like-minded men. If your son's in sports, I'm sure there's a lot of dads there, right? Go to
Mm-hmm.
your local, if you're involved in the community, in your mosque, in your church, uh, different organizations like 100 Black Men or things like that. Those are
Mm-hmm.
the things. Seek out other like-minded men, and sometimes have a mentorship. But I,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the time that fathers often have to just do that work on themselves, do
That's
that
so,
self-love on yourself, do that self-work on
yeah.
yourself, and then you can be able to provide that for your son.
And it's so
Understanding that.
powerful that you said that,
Go ahead.
because when you said that earlier, and I apologize for interrupting you, but when you said that you got to love you, I help my clients to understand, to individualize and prioritize themselves and to love them. That's powerful, because most men don't hear that they got to love themselves. They got to work through the healing uh, for themselves. Speaking directly to the men, how would you encourage them to jump on that bandwagon of self love?
You know, how I work with my clients is the first exercise I do with my clients. I have them write 10 things they love and they hate about themselves, just to see
Mm.
what is your inner dialogue. You got to
Mm-hmm.
change, because 90% of our conversations are with ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a negative connotation towards ourselves. Then our mind, our cognitive distortions, all of those things, we start, and it starts here, and it's the negativity. We have to clear out that negativity. you know Forgiveness, as we tell, unforgiveness. If you don't forgive yourself for whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't move on. You're always tethered to that position, that point of life. So you have to work on forgiving yourself, giving yourself. And one of the greatest words that you have to do is grace.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself grace. We are often too hard on ourselves. That internal dialogue, that inner voice in you is negative, and you're never going to be anything, and you're never going to do this. That's why I teach my clients mindfulness and meditation and those things, to be able to control your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because able to control what you do, it always starts with a thought. We think,
Yeah.
we feel, we do. When we control how we think, we control how we feel. We
Mm-hmm.
control how we feel, we control our actions and what we do. But everything starts with a thought. So clear out that negativity in that inner voice of yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Forgive yourself, then care for yourself. We don't
Mm-hmm.
take sorry. One of the things I have my men, they go get massages, or they do that because in order to love, you love what you care for, right?
Yeah.
You talk
Yeah.
about your babies, and I know how well and how tender and caring and generous you are with your babies, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we love what we care for. But when I approach them and I question their ability, or do you really love themselves? Like, man, I love myself. I do that. I said, okay. What do you do for self care? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for self care? I mean, nothing really, And I'm not talking about drinking and carousing, or
Right.
because only thing that's numbing yourself. That's
Mm-hmm.
numbing yourself. That's silencing the scream that you have within yourself. But when's the
Mm-hmm.
last time you just took a walk in nature for yourself, or set yourself down and ordered yourself a meal just to sit down? One of the things that I'm getting from this book is having that mirror time. Spend 60
Mm-hmm.
seconds looking at yourself in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
without turning away. It's
Yeah.
difficult. It's
It is.
difficult, but you have to start
Mm-hmm.
loving. I'm always reminded, by Michael.
Mm-hmm.
looking at, I'm searching for the man in the mirror. I'm hoping he can change his ways. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and change.
Make
You know,
that
I'm
change.
sorry I had to
Mm-hmm.
quote the great Michael Jackson, but those lyrics just they're talking about that mirror, that man, that
Mm-hmm.
self love, that self actualization. We need that. We need to
Mm-hmm.
ourselves so we can love our brothers. Why is there so much crime in our community? It is not
Mm-hmm.
just in our community. Of course, the stats in the media.
Right.
There still is a lot of black on black crime. It's because we don't love ourselves. How can we love our brothers? If we
That's it.
don't love ourselves, how can we love our brother? And how can we truly love our sons? Right?
Mm-hmm. That's
If
heavy.
we don't love ourselves, because that's
Mm-hmm.
direct reflection of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Man, the fact that you broke it down like that, my hope is that men will hear this episode and understand that loving yourself has to be first, not necessarily from a selflessness place, but from a place of choosing you as a priority, recognizing that I have to heal those unspoken parts of me that have been driving my ego, that have been driving my emotional dysfunction. I have to heal that. How important is it to recognize where you are in dysfunction while you're trying to be in relationship with others?
It's most important. One of the exercises that I do with my clients is, and this is another test on self care and self love. I ask them if they're on a flight
Mm-hmm.
and they're with their, let's say, fathers, and you're with your two young children, 2 and 3 years old, or 1 and 2 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the flight attendant's giving you the instructions about the airbag. When the airbag drops, who do you put it on? I'm gonna put it on my little. I'm gonna put it on my kids. I'm gonna put it on my kids. I'm gonna make sure they're all right. So Marcia, what I do, I go a little differently. I say, well, picture this scenario. Picture
Mm-hmm.
the scenario that the emergency is that there is noxious gas seeping into the cabin, and it will incapacitate you in 30 seconds, meaning you'll fall out, but in 30 seconds, but in a minute you'll die.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that this happens. The
Mm-hmm.
airbags are deployed, and you struggle to put it on your 1 year old, and you might get it in 15 seconds, and right at 30 seconds, you get it on your 2 year old. So they both has the mask on. But now you pass out, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
pass out because you took care, you did what you felt was right.
Mm-hmm.
But then your 1 and 2 year old, what are they going to do? They're probably going to
Exactly.
take the mask off because they don't have any direction. They don't have any guidance. They don't know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to do it, and then everybody's probably going to die.
Yeah.
However, if you put the mask on yourself within 30 seconds, you're revitalized. Even though your 1 and 2 year olds might have passed out, you have enough time to put the mask on, revitalize him, put the mask on him, revitalize self. So the moral to that story is that if you don't take care of you, you can't
Mm-hmm.
take care of nobody else.
Nobody.
If you don't love you, you can't have the capacity to love no one else. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not selfishness, it's self care. It's
It's self.
taking care of yourself so you have the ability to take care of others.
Absolutely. I love that. And I use that analogy. I didn't go as deep as you do
Mhm.
with giving the example of the oxygen mask, but I do share with, with clients that, if you don't put the oxygen on you first, nobody else around you is going to be concerned about if you got oxygen on because they're going to be busy themselves to put oxygen on themselves. You got to choose life. You got to choose yourself as a priority, again, not from a selfish place, but from a place of I can't sustain if I'm not available.
Absolutely.
Choosing yourself. I've got to be able to sustain. My goal is to be present for my children, to be present. You said something very powerful, and I too want to say to the ladies, listen, my child lost her father, and he was $40,000 in child support debt. And people often ask me, how did that feel? And I said, I wish that he would have been here to watch her walk across the stage as she graduated. I wished that he would have been. I didn't care about the money because she didn't miss anything in life. You know, we can't use money to stop men from being in the lives of their children, from being present for their children. On the same hand, men, you got to still show up even if you ain't got it. Your presence is more valuable than the finances. The safety and the security that a child can lock in on knowing daddy will be there is far more important than a couple of dollars, because let's face it, you can go buy them some shoes today and then you don't come around for another month, they're gonna be out of them shoes because they're growing and you're gonna have to buy some more. That's not it. Does money help? It absolutely does. However, set your focus on, what can I do when my money ain't flowing? How can I be present in the lives of my procreated bond? How can I set that up for me and for them? Don't allow pride to stop you from showing up as the man that you need to be. You're already a man. Can't nobody take that away from you. The only way that anyone can take the idea of a man away from a man is if you decide to give it up for yourself. Because can't nobody take it from you. You're a man.
One
Walk
of
in
the
that thing. So what would be your closing words? Because I know you got to run and see clients because we always on the move. What's your closing words for us today?
well, I want to share something to that, and I've never asked my son how he feels, but
Mm,
it's one of the greatest feelings that I have
mm-hmm,
is my son comes and gets his son on Fridays or Saturdays, usually depending on if he's trying to work extra or things like that.
mm-hmm,
And the elation that my grandson has, daddy, 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 to run the way he hugs and embraces his father. Brothers, there's nothing. When I talk about nothing, when a little person is dependent on you, not
mm-hmm,
just for protection and provision, but for nurturing and love.
mm-hmm,
We can give
mm-hmm.
that, brothers, but we have to stop being this macho masculine man and turn into a man that is not only fierce. Jason Wilson talks about that in his books. You can be the lion and the lamb. That
Yeah.
is a comprehensive man, that you can be gentle and caring and nurturing with your cubs, with your, if you ever seen a male lion, and I love lions because I'm a Leo, but if you ever
Mm-hmm,
see them, they're so caring and nurturing. So that's the lamb. But then let somebody come and try to take anything or do anything to their pride, and think about why they call it a pride. I'm proud of that.
mm-hmm.
They will chop your head off.
Yeah.
So be that lion when you need to be a lion. Be that lion, not just in protection, but be out that lion, going to get the resources. Be that lion protecting your pride, but also
Mm-hmm.
be that gentle, that nurturer, that loving protector as well, because they
Exactly.
need all of it. They need that comprehensive love.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. The comprehensive love of man. I love that. I'm gonna have to grab that Jason book, um, because I know it's gonna have some powerful stuff that I can share with clients who may be going through. So before
Mhm.
we get out of here today, tell them how to find you, how to contact you, social media handles, website, all of that.
All right. Well, you can visit my website at www.asafespacetobe.com. And on Instagram, I'm at H Scott Gordon, and I think both Instagram and Facebook
Facebook.
at
Mm-hmm.
H Scott Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are you taking
I'm
on new clients right now?
I am
Okay.
I am
Well,
I
y'all
am,
get with
and
them. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this brother.
I want to say, and I want to talk about something that I'm actually in the works on, because one of my one of my passions and desires, and as I said, it is young black men, right? And the mothers that are raising them either by themselves or with a non emotionally
Available. Mm-hmm.
available father or significant other in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, it breaks my heart oftentimes that they will come to me needing help for their sons, and I have to turn them away because they can't afford my prices, because I don't have
Mm.
insurance and all of that. So what I'm doing and what I'm in a creation of is called the MOSS movement,
Mm-hmm.
MOSS. And MOSS stands for Mothers of Struggling Sons.
I like that.
Struggling Sons. And
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be a fundraising campaign because I want to be able to raise money so that those mothers who come
Mm.
to and they need assistance and they want their sons, because they can see that he needs that, to be able to have a fund set aside that they can get the proper help that they need. So I am actually getting ready to do a Jeffersonian type dinner in Atlanta, where I am going to talk to some people and present this and see if they
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to sponsor, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to sponsor a young man for a month or 6 months or a year of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to take care of our own. So that's what the MOS movement is, so that I can help provide mothers of struggling sons the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to be able to get the therapeutic help that they need.
Well, you know, Peculiar One Counseling will be all over that. I'll sponsor one or two so that they can get what they need, because I am a true believer that when we work to heal the community will continue to heal itself. Thank you so very much, bro. I know that we both running today. I really appreciate your wisdom, your love, and everything that you give back to the community, especially to our Black and brown babies. How they can become their absolute best self is through the lens of seeing other men being their absolute best self. So until next time on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, you all take care. Show up, be present, be focused, and always, always create a safe space for you to be in. Y'all take good care.